Welcome to E360 TV, the live streaming and on-demand destination for influential voices and enlightened audiences. We offer trending, grassroots, and purpose-driven content across a diverse range of interests. E360 TV is more than just watching programs. We offer the ability to interact with live shows connecting audiences to real, authentic influencers and storytellers while streaming to millions of devices. Real experiences. Raw conversations. One destination for it all. E360 TV.
Wait for it. That was good. Morningstar sausage. Vegetarian. Oh, let me tell you something. You see what I'm doing, right? I'm warming them up so I can get them as a sponsor. But I eat them every day anyway. They might as well come on in, right? Just like you guys did. Good morning, beautiful, beautiful people. How are you? You're looking good today. Happy Thursday, and welcome to today's installment of Bathrobe Moments. I'm your host, Storm Michaels Harris, and it's the 26th day of August. Oh, where did the summer go? Well, you know what? Fall is upon us. And this is the point where I do it at the end of every month. January, February, March, April, May, June, July, almost one more month, and we're out of Q3. Check yourself before you wreck yourself. Where are you as far as being in alignment with your intentions, your goals, your plans for this year? I know we got a slow start. We came out of last year and the COVID and the craziness, still in it. Kind of hard to make a lot of plans because everything's so tenuous, up in the air. But whatever it is you're doing to improve yourself, whatever your plan is to take great to greater, bright to brighter, smart to smarter, nice to nicer, check it and make sure you're on schedule. Don't let days just go by without checking something off the list. Can I get an amen? Oops, sorry, Lucy. I hit Lucy while I was on the way to the bell of purpose. Did you hear that? You know why I ring that bell? Because every time I ring it, it means there's some truth out there. There's a reason they say that the truth has a ring to it. If you get used to hearing it and you condition yourself to listen for the ring of truth, Trust me, it's going to make life a whole lot easier. Again, can I get an amen? All right, then, let's get going. So, allergies. Any of you out there, put in the comments any of you deal with allergies this time of year. I'm not kidding you. My husband Brian, I go to bed early, like 9 o'clock, because I get up at 4 in the morning, and I don't know what time he goes to bed, late. But he said as soon as he walked in, I sneezed in my sleep. I woke up sneezing. He goes, I hope you're not allergic to me. I was like, when'd you get here? He goes, like 2 seconds ago. Uh-oh. So anyway, what do you do? I can only take so many allergy pills in one day. And I wear the mask and I wash my face, and oh my goodness, I wake up, my eyes are glued together. I sneeze, it's out, and that throat thing. Oh, so I don't know. I've had it all my life, but it doesn't seem to get any better. And this year is bad. I don't know what it's like in your neck of the woods, but if you have any home remedies, I'd want to know. Put them in the comments. Thank you. Also, we're going to have a couple somebodies on the show. Let me look. I think is it next week? No, it's week after next, after Labor Day. A couple doctors and some people, some experts coming on to talk to us about these boosters, these COVID boosters, right? Because I'm not going to, if we don't have the conversation, we start listening to all those urban myths, all of those conspiracy theories. And all I want to do is know the truth as close as I get to it. So, and I go to the health professionals. I ask them, what do you do? And what are you having your family do? And then I go from there. So we're going to have that coming up. What do you guys think about it? Yes, no, maybe, jury's still out? Put in the comments. Oh, I'm looking for a woman to come on here today. I hope she does it. Her name is Roberta. You know how those people call you for appointments and things? And we talked for must have been 40 minutes. I think she almost got fired. She's in her 70s, and she works for QTC, which is a company that makes appointments for the VA. And so we talked yesterday, and we had a grand old time. And she is now a new friend of mine. So she said she's going to be here today. And she kept saying, and don't worry, baby. Or, she says, don't worry. I'm going to give you my honest opinion. So I really hope that you're here today. Let me know if you're here, Roberta. And Labor Day is coming up. And after Labor Day, the robes come back every morning. I take them off for the summer because it's hot. But they'll be back. I got them all laid out, including the new robe for this year. So I'll be debuting that right after Labor Day. And Slam the Hammer, my free mastermind, every other week. We'll be back. We take the summer off, so we'll be back. Excuse me. So who's here today? Get ready. I know she's serious because I saw her in the green room. She's back there like she was getting ready for Broadway, doing all her little facial things to get ready. So she means it. She means it. Karen Unrue. I saw Karen. I think it was on Adam Duvall's show. I believe it was. And I was just riveted. I was like, where'd he find her? Instantly, I was on it. Hey, Karen, how you doing? I want to be your friend. Can you come on my show? And she agreed, of course. And, we've been talking about mental health a lot, but we can never talk about it too much. And I like to get different takes on it. Now, Karen, she's going to make you laugh. She's going to make you think. And hopefully, she's going to give you something that you can pour into other people as well as yourself. So let me tell you a little bit about Karen. Well, understatement, not a little. Bio is as long as this room, but that just means she has a lot to say. So I may not say it all, but I'm going to preface, do the Reader's Digest version. Here we go. Karen lives near Oxford in England, but until 5 years ago, she lived and worked in London as a mental health mentor to clients who could not afford private care. Excuse me, and so assessed help through MH Charities. She'll tell us what that is. She worked both one-to-one and in group settings. She developed and delivered training to help facilitate trauma recovery, providing clients with insight and tools so that they could learn to love the life they live. Her passion for the disadvantaged still drives her as she works via Zoom with clients. So there's a whole bunch of stuff, but I'm going to save it because I want her in here now. So without further ado, Let's give a Bathrobe Moments welcome to a first timer. Be extra nice. Don't scare the woman. And put your hearts on the screen and put your hearts into this conversation. It is a serious topic and it belongs to all of us. Here she comes. Get ready. All the way from Oxford, Karen Unrue. I had to drink some water while that thing was playing. I thought I was going to die over here. Hi, Karen Unrue.
Hello.
Oh, you made me drop my sausage.
Well, that's a euphemism for you.
If I only had a quarter. So anyway, I just love you. Seriously, I went and watched a bunch of stuff that was out there with your name on it.
Oh.
And I got some memes to show. I love your style. Tell us about Karen. Yes, you are unique. You are unapologetic. And you put it down so we can pick it up. And I love it because you put it down hot. And when I pick it up, it's still hot. So that's great. So why don't you tell everybody what a beautiful view of the loo. I'm like, okay. Now, hey, listen, people always get it confused instead of saying bathrobe. They'll say bathroom moments.
Well, this is it. Now, oh dear, I should have shut the door, but I've been twizzling around this blasted room trying to get a proper light. And I hadn't noticed. Bloody hell. Well, yes. Bathrobe, bathroom,
whatever. Right. If you like it, I love it. And so I love it. It's so porcelainly white. It's very nice here.
A public toilet. So
it is. No, it isn't. Oh, okay. And look at that. Is that a leopard print couch?
That's my leopard print couch, Lauren. Yep, you're not the only gay in the village.
Who knew? Did you hear that? Oh, kiss her. Oh, I didn't know that, Karen.
You didn't know that?
Oh, no. Oh, well, I had a little clue or two, but the 4 agreements asks us not to assume. So I didn't. I was going to wait. But yay. So Karen, tell everybody. You already cracked the shell. So tell everybody a little bit about where you are, what you do. And then we're going to go back and let you tell us about young Karen up to this younger Karen that is in front of us. Because you age backwards. You age in reverse.
I'm very aware that I'm probably looking at the wrong place in the camera because I'm not looking at you. Can everybody see me okay?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
We're over here.
So, yeah, as Lauren said, I now live near Oxford. Lived in London for the last 15 years before that, but was raised in Warwickshire, near Stratford-upon-Avon, where the Bard is from. My backstory briefly is that I was raised in a very fundamentalist, legalistic, evangelical, charismatic environment and household.
Lord.
And
I had to swallow 3 times on that one. That was a bunch of them. Wow. I'm shocked you got out. So alive. But go ahead. Go ahead.
Me too. That's why I stay near the toilet.
Right. Told y'all. Okay. I brought snacks. This is going to be so good. Go ahead.
And I grew up in an absolutely wonderful, loving family. There was a lot of love and laughter. But my father had been raised in an orphanage and did not know about family praise and how to sort of be lighthearted with his kids. And he took to religion like a duck to water in the sense that he liked the rules because he understood rules. And our upbringing was very strict, though loving. And but also the religious environment in which we grew up in was a mixture of God loved you so much that he sent his only son to die on the cross for you. That's how much you were loved. But then on the other hand, it was, but if you step out of God's will at all, you will go to damnation. So even though there was love, there was always that, oh my God, what if I get it wrong? What if I step out of God's will, whatever that might be?
Mm.
And my mother had manic depression, or what we call bipolar now.
Oh.
And would go into terrible depressions. And our church at the time did not believe in mental illness.
Mm-hmm.
As far as they were concerned, it was that you had not had enough faith, that you had mispleased God, and he had removed his protection and a demon had got in.
Like Adam Sandler's mom in that movie. Everything was of the devil. That kind of thing.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes. And I also learned demons are very deaf, because as I stood outside the door as a 14-year-old and was listening to this, it was a lot of screaming trying to get that demon out. But my mum was the most fun-loving, caring, giving woman I ever knew. And so what hit me at that time was, if my mum can get it so wrong that God drops his protection and, she is demon possessed, then I must be hyper vigilant, about.
Wait a minute. Did they actually say she was demon possessed?
Oh, yes.
Oh.
She had to confess that she had, not that she could remember, of course, because she hadn't dropped her guard and not had enough faith. But this was how they blamed the individual, because they didn't believe in mental illness. So I became hyper vigilant from that point forward, that if this was a God that could do this to a person who slightly got it wrong, I was not going to get it wrong. And even though I loved God dearly, at the same time, I was very, very fearful and hyper vigilant. And actually, then my mom also, because nobody talked about mental illness, and in the 70s, when she would get terribly ill and we would hear her howling in the night and we'd see her sitting, wringing her hands, unkempt during the day, would be taken off, what we now know, of course, to a psychiatric hospital. But nobody informed us where she would be taken, what was going on, just that.
So she did go?
Yeah. Because she was really sick. But it was never explained to us kids. And so there was that awful fear of abandonment. So
Karen, how long would she be gone, generally?
A good 6 weeks or more.
And how many times do you remember this happening, that she was gone for that?
At least 3.
Wow.
And there'd be no discussion about why she'd gone and when she came back, where she'd been. Not until I was an adult did I sort of say, hey, what was going on back then?
So was it the kind of thing between the siblings who was like, shh, don't ask?
Absolutely. There was a lot of stigma.
So were you told what to tell the neighbors? What if people ask, hey, where's your mom? I haven't seen her in a minute. What would you say?
We were just told to say mum's not well and she's gone away to get better. Okay. But we didn't know any better than that anyway.
Right.
So I grew up, I developed complex PTSD, which basically was based in my immediate security, that is my mom, coming and going and never knowing when she was going to get sick or whatever it was that happened to her. But also my existential security, if you'd like, my existential safety, because I was constantly trying to stay in the good books of this overbearing God that I had been taught about. So I went into my adult life. I was always confident and outgoing with a good sense of humor.
Right.
And had, lots of friends, but I was deeply insecure.
Did you ever, can I just put in here and ask, did you and you have how many siblings?
I have a brother and sister.
So there are 3 of you in there.
Yeah.
And where did you fall in the pecking order?
Darling, I'm the eldest.
Are you? So you're the eldest. So did your younger ones did you guys ever think like, is this catchy? Like, does it pass down to us? And was that talked about, or was that also unspoken? It
was unspoken, but in our later teens, my sister and I would say to each other, what the hell is this? is this something that we're going to happen to us?
Right.
But because it was also made to look like it was linked to your relationship with God, we were both real busy trying to be real good, and afraid of this ethereal
Being stricken with it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. And in fact, then when I was 19, I met an American GI who was stationed at an Air Force base near us. He came to our youth group.
Air Force.
Yeah. Yeah.
Of course.
A whole
Yeah.
crowd of these American Air Force guys came to our youth group, which pleased us girls no end, because the boys there at the time were just weak-chinned, spotty specimens.
Oh.
And in came these 6'2" sort of, Americans in their uniform. And I started dating one of them, and he seemed real nice, and basically started asking me to marry him within no time. And I'm like, no, I've got a place in university. I'm not settling down yet. No. Yeah. But then one day he turned up and he said, God has told me that we are to be married to do a work for him.
Oh.
And in my church, it was the men that were told what was happening for the women.
Oh, they were the ones that got the call from Commissioner Gordon. Oh, since I have a Batman shirt on. Hi, it's me, Todd. You know that Karen girl? Marry her. Okay, all right. Bye-bye. Is that kind of how it went?
Shouldn't I see if she's okay with that? Uh-huh, I've told you.
Right. Like what she thinks matters. Right. So, okay, so he says this, and then what do, Agnes of God?
Well, Agnes of God, yes. First of all, I was like, no, that's crazy, but
as you went, afraid you were going to be struck.
Well, he knew what he was doing. He turned out to be a real narcissist, and he knew what he was doing because he said to me, are you sure it's a scary thing to step out of God's will? And that's when, the icy hand of fear went on my heart. And I was just like, oh, shit, I better get married then. Because my biggest fear in life was to displease God.
I'm sorry. I keep thinking I could just see him like he's standing right next to you and he says it, and then you question. He goes, well, while you think about that, let me just move over here out of the way, just in case, right? So a lot of intimidation, and of course he knew what he was doing because he was American. And so he knew how you were going to perceive what he said.
He came from that kind of background too. Yes.
Oh, as well. Okay. So he was real. He was legit.
Yeah. Well, no, not legit.
So you married him?
Yeah. 5 months later, I married him because my father fell for it. My mom fell for it. Even my pastor, was, yes, this is from God. And I can remember we went on a pre-wedding little holiday a few days to a relative of mine in Wales. And I remember saying to him, something must be wrong, I said, because I'm not even really attracted to you. I wouldn't care if you never kissed me again. And he was just like, honey, it's okay. Honey, it's okay. God will make it all come right once we're married. You just got to obey him.
Oh, did he have a Southern accent?
He was from West Virginia, by golly.
Okay. Wow. My God. I'm just seeing the vibes and energy of those conversations going all over the place. Okay. So what'd you do? Just lay there? I'm just saying. I'm just saying, because
so to speak, yes. I mean, 5 months after meeting him, I was standing at the altar in a white dress, thinking to myself, I'm sure other women don't feel like this at the altar, wondering if they're doing the right thing. But yeah, 3 days later, we had moved back to America where he was stationed. And I then endured 9.5 years of an abusive marriage. So I picked him well.
So how old were you when you get married?
Just 20.
Just 20. So now an entire decade of your youth.
Yeah.
And how did you get out of that? Because narcissistic relationships, you just don't say, oh, this ain't working for me.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? What?
Yeah.
And
It
was
was,
there ever any domestic violence, if that's not too personal?
oh, a lot. It was mostly emotional and verbal and mental,
Okay.
but there was a lot of pushing and shoving and fist in my face, saying
Threats.
nasty things.
Mm.
And then toward the end, he began to hit me because I began to stand up to him, because by that time we had a son who was born 2 years before I left. So he was little. And I remember thinking, I might try and raise this boy to have good morals, good values, treat women right, but he's going to see the way his father's treating me. So I thought, right, I've got to get past this barrier where I just submit because I'm too afraid.
Mm-hmm.
And so I began to stand up to him, and that's when it went beyond just verbal, and he began to hit me. Yeah.
So can I ask? Okay, so you have two layers of onion going on behind what people were seeing. And what I mean by that, you have the well, I don't know that because maybe you hadn't been dealing with the sexuality issue yet, but you also have the churchy thing going on.
Yeah.
So I don't know how that's like, to me would feel like being in a hall of mirrors.
Yeah.
You know, when you're looking for the way out, everything looks the same, you know, like a, you know. So when did you start, which did you deal with first, the Christianity part or the sexuality part?
The sexuality part really didn't have a chance to raise its head because I was too busy dealing with the churchy part and the marriage part.
Sure.
And if I look back, basically, I think if I'd been raised in a liberal marriage, sorry, in a liberal family,
Mm-hmm.
I'd probably have been bisexual. But I followed the heterosexual route because I'd never heard of homosexuality.
Right.
But also it was the only thing I knew was to date guys.
Right.
And he was the first guy I dated. That's how naive I was. But so, oh gosh, yes, it was dealing with the only reason I stayed in the marriage was twofold. One, it was typical abused wife behavior in that I was first of all made to believe that I was getting what I deserved and it was my fault. But then also, secondly, I didn't dare leave because I had to stay and please God.
Ugh.
Because he is the one who had arranged this marriage. So it was a delusion on both extremes, really.
So Karen, did you believe, since you said that you know that God had arranged it, so did you still at this point believe that it was okay that you were left out of the loop of decision making? You know, you know, we know that there are countries where there are arranged marriages and stuff, but I had no idea, because this sounds like an arranged marriage.
In many ways it was. Yes, that's true.
Wow.
And I was still very much someone who had drunk the Kool-Aid, you know.
Yeah.
I realize now in hindsight and after lots of therapy that I was basically raised in a cult-like setting. And
not the first time I've heard someone say that.
Yeah. And the conditioning went very, very deep. You know, I'd known nothing else. So I was continuing to live in the conditioning and upbringing that I had known. And it wasn't until many years later that I actually began to break away, and realizing I was gay was a big part of that. Yeah.
So then, and you have a son.
I do.
And okay, so you get away. Did you stay in America? Did you go back home with your son?
Well, I had to escape with my son.
Kendall, let's talk about that. How'd you escape?
Yes. Well, my husband wasn't going to let me take my son home, and hid his passport and everything. So I hid his birth certificate in my shoe, and thinking, you know, I might need this. And none of this was done with a bold Xena princess warrior spirit. This was done by a very broken person who didn't know how to continue on. His behavior had really broken me.
Which it makes it even more impressive that you could pull it off.
Oh, thank you. Well, my mother came out from England secretively, and we managed to remove my son and, go with my son. And we managed to travel to Utah, where an aunt of mine lived. But then we found out that they had rung my father to say that they had shot me. And they all, obviously had guns.
What? Wait, I thought you said shot.
Yes.
But then I said, no, she must have said shot.
No, they rang my father, collect call as well.
They who?
The West Virginians. I'm not going to name them, but the West Virginians.
So the
in-laws.
husbands. Okay.
Yeah, and they also harassed friends of mine, turned up carloads of them to see if that's where I was. One woman had to get a restraining order to keep them away. I mean, these were people you didn't mess with.
We going hunting. That kind of thing. Like, it's time to go hunting. Pack up the truck.
Oh, yeah. They were still feuding with the family down the holler.
Dang. So what'd your father do when he had got the call that you'd been shot?
Well, for 24 hours, he couldn't find out if that was true or not. And eventually, of course, we rang him to say that we were safely in Utah.
Okay.
And that was the first time he knew. And then we found out what they had done in calling him. And so I flew down to LA to try and get a passport for my son. But he had blocked he'd blocked all of that already. And then I had to fly to Ottawa. He's still
in the military, right?
No, he'd come out of the military.
He'd come out, but he's still a vet, so he's got some. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then you flew to Ottawa.
So then I flew to Ottawa, but I must say that being at customs was terrifying because, of course, I've left America. I have my son with his birth certificate, which, of course, you can travel between Canada and Mexico with just your birth certificate if you're a citizen. And I'm walking towards, the chap who stamps your passport. And I'm thinking, oh, my God, he's probably got a picture of me right there saying to arrest this woman. She is,
Right. They're like, hey.
That's what I thought. And so it was terrifying. I
imagine.
It felt like Sophie's Choice,
Yeah.
What do I do? But I had to keep going forward because there was no way back.
Because if this does happen like that, you may never see your son again.
Exactly. It was horrific. And so I get there. He looks at me, looks at my passport, and then he stamps it. And I nearly went, no. You must have my picture back there.
No, you didn't say that.
No, I didn't say it.
You were thinking it. Okay. I was thinking
it. I managed to restrain myself, and then went straight to the embassy, British embassy in Ottawa, and they said, "Well, there's nothing we can do. There's only one man in the whole world that can help you, and that's Mr. Rovchetti at the Commonwealth and Treaties Office in London." So I went back to the hotel. I rang my parents. I told them. And it took them 2 days to get a hold of him. And the other funny part of the story is that there was a heavy metal band who had taken over the whole of the floor that I was on.
Oh, how fun. Right.
Molly Hatchet, they were called. And
I heard of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So here's me at the world's biggest crisis in my life, and yet all these guys are standing in the doorway of the, smoking pot and playing heavy metal. And I'm trying to keep my 2-year-old happy running up and down the corridors. And they're like, hey, honey, you want a joint?
Okay. And you're like.
So that was the soundtrack to my crisis, was Molly Hatchet.
Wow.
And wonderfully, 2 days later, I got a phone call thinking it was going to be my parents saying, "I'm so sorry, Karen, we can't get anything done." But it was the consul from the embassy saying, "I don't know how you've managed this, but I have a passport waiting for you." Yeah.
Wow.
So
I had chills.
I did.
Wow.
And thankfully, I've been able to raise my son, who's now 37. How does that happen?
Still a baby.
I know. Without any of the violent input of his father, who knew where we were and had the chance to go for custody or joint custody or whatever, but didn't bother.
So is it safe to say that your son has had like no connection with the father?
Well, he looked for him when he was 17
Okay.
and found him. But his father just changed his email addresses. So my son, being an IT expert, sort of followed him around his different emails over the years. And eventually his father just said, "Look, I don't want any contact with you." So he hadn't changed.
He hadn't changed. And
No.
it's like probably looking at the son as if you traitor, you know, like
Yeah.
he crawled
Yeah.
away from him on his own or something.
Yeah.
When we come back from this 1-minute break, we're going to talk to Karen Unrue, our guest today, about how she, after she got away, how she found herself inside of all of that rubble that was left from everything that had happened. That and a bunch more. Get your questions and comments ready for Karen. We'll be back in just 1 minute. Don't go away.
Cutting the power lines, we're done talking about it. A spark turns into fire, and we're not sorry about it. If you're not sleeping tight, you know we're onto something. You hear the streets are crying, ocean turns into fire. Take it to the streets, hit control of the lead. Take it to the streets, hit control of the lead. Warnings been spread wide, you can't do none to stop it. Posing is bad.
Good morning and welcome back to today's installment of Bathrobe Moments. I'm your host, Lauren Michaels Harrison. Before we get our wonderful guest back in to finish this riveting story, Karen Unrue, I wanted to remind you, if you're looking for a healthy choice instead of soda, sugary drinks, that sort of thing, go to the juice aisle in your local grocer and pick up a 6-pack or an 8-pack or a 12-pack of V8. Why? Because it's 100% vegetable juice from concentrate. I love it because it's only 60 calories per can and you get 2 full servings of vegetables with each one of these little babies. So do yourself a favor. Don't go, oops, I could have had a V8. Say to yourself, I'm going to have a V8, just like this. Delicious. Tastes just like candy. Remember that one? So anyway, let's get Karen back in here and finish this riveting story up. So Karen, when we left, you had just escaped, had gotten the passport for your son, and now we'd like to know what was left. What did you find when you walked into that room that used to belong to you before there was a son? I almost imagine it's like you walk in and it's ransacked. You got to step over all this rubble and stuff. How did you start picking up the pieces and finding your way to the person you are today?
Very good question. And as you can see, I've closed my bathroom door.
Oh, we were used to it by now. What, do you think somebody was going to go in there, not know you were on the air, and just go in and plop down? And oh, that would have been. I did have a show one day where the guest's boyfriend didn't know she was on a call and just walked butt ass naked back 2 or 3 times. And then she tried to stop him. We were like, no, let him go. You know. But anyway, that was another year. So tell us what happened.
Well, you're quite right to talk about rubble, because what I walked back into, I went back to live with my parents, who thought they got rid of all 3 kids, and then I turned up with a toddler, bless them.
Yeah.
And I wanted to re-enter the womb, so my mum had to sit with her legs crossed for a while.
Oh. Mom, please. Ooh, that was a visual. Okay.
Please let me start again.
Yes. Which means you would have actually needed to back in.
That's right. Yes, feet first.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. So the way I came to view what was happening to me was that I was like an uninhabitable dwelling. You know,
condemned,
no longer safe for habitation. You know, the roof was off, the windows were blown, you know, so that I was open to the elements. Everything felt very raw. Nothing was safe. Even, you know, even my mom, and my parents were a lot less religious by this time. And my mom, who, you know, I knew I had unconditional acceptance from, and who I adored. She only had to say a tiny little thing that I would take wrong. And it was as if, you know, I was just torn open because I was so badly damaged from all that I'd been through in my marriage. So, yes, I had to go about repairing and rebuilding. And this was 1986. And there wasn't actually there really weren't self-help books or support groups or anything like that.
Right.
And I didn't consider myself a battered wife, because this is what we tend to do with our mental health issues. We tend to compare. So because I'd never ended up at the emergency room with a broken jaw or a black eye, I didn't think I deserved the title abused wife.
Because you needed to see, you thought you had to see the scars, but not realizing that the worst are the ones you can't.
Absolutely. In fact, one thing I say to my clients now who come from abusive childhoods or abusive marriages or relationships, I say to them, I want you to imagine every word, every bullying statement, every narcissistic piece of abuse, every bit of neglect. I want you to imagine that showing up on the outside as either a burn, a bullet wound, a knife scar, a tear, a broken bone, so that you can actually visualize the impact that the invisible has had on you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly right.
Yeah. But at that time, I didn't recognize that. I just saw myself as a failure of a wife. And it took me, I mean, I was in despair. I didn't know how to live. I felt like a puppet with my strings cut.
I'm actually shocked, Karen, that even mattered to you, the wife piece. Since you really had this much to say, I mean, I get it with your son, you bore him. But all the rest of it, I'm really surprised that mattered so much to you, even on the back end.
Well, it only mattered, you see, because I was still in the grip of fearing not being in God's will. And here I was now getting divorced. And as far as I was concerned, because I'd been a failure of a wife, he hadn't committed adultery. He hadn't done any of these so-called get out clauses. And so I felt like an abomination, you know. And And it took me many, many years to get past that, even though at this point, my parents, who were now far more reasonable people, were saying, wait a minute, Karen, your Heavenly Father wouldn't want you in an abusive marriage. But my conditioning had been so strict growing up that I hadn't had that evolution, you see. But gradually, I suppose I began to tend to my own wounds, in the sense that my mom basically saved my life, in that I was such a broken mess, and that she just loved the pieces back into place, was one of the things to say. And but also I would go for long walks in the Cornish countryside where we lived with my son in his pushchair. He was 17 by now. And no.
I was like, oh, she means a stroller, a pram. And then you said 17. I was like, okay, yeah, you might have needed to get to that therapist a little sooner. If you're pushing, and take him with you, and push a 17-year-old baby with you, because he needs a little. Oh, I could, but I never made it there because I couldn't find his pacifier.
That's right.
Oh, okay, stop. Go ahead.
And I used to go for long walks, talking out loud to myself. This was my own little sort of therapy room, and so I would try and figure out, how do I get over my social anxieties? How do I get over my low self-esteem? How do I get over these things? And so one of the tricks I taught myself was, I think you need to shift the focus, Karen, was one of the things. So I would be invited to go somewhere, a small dinner party or something. And so rather than being terrified of what they would think of me, whether I would, make the right impression or whatever, I decided to shift the focus and focus on who I was talking to and be interested in them. And I began to realize everyone is mostly concerned about how they're coming across. It's not just me. And by shifting that focus in myself, then also when I leave the party, not to ruminate all the way home about, oh, I wonder what he thought of me. I wonder what she thought. Oh, I wish I hadn't said such and such. I would make myself focus on what other people had said and what I thought of that. Now, one of the things that when people talk about having come through difficult times, it sounds like it was easy.
Right.
It was, you know how in between the airlocks in a submarine, you have those big doors with the circular handles?
Yes.
Yeah, that are really hard to close.
Right.
That was the effort required to shut off from my thinking, the old way of thinking, if you like, the air from an old airlock, and to begin to pursue what felt wrong to do, because it felt more right to be very self-conscious and to worry what people thought of me. But that hadn't been working for me. So I had to do what felt wrong, but was actually right, in order for that then to become something that felt right too.
Mm-hmm.
And gradually I began to gain confidence. But we're talking years,
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Same thing with me. And I'm going to just say, it was when I try to, give someone a picture of what that transition, that moment of transition looked like for me, because that's the part that gets skipped over.
Yes.
Even when you used to watch Oprah, and they'd have a kid who got his legs cut off when he fell off the tractor and stuff and crawled all the way to the house and didn't go in the front door because he didn't want to bloody up his mother's carpet, but he ended up in the bathtub, and they go over it. But I always wonder, but what about that moment when you said, I should just stop right here? I
Yes.
can't crawl any further, but something spoke to you and you kept going anyway. That's the part that keeps missing. And
Yes.
for me, when I was where you're at in the story, I realized I had been covering the mirror up with something, anything, old coat, a dust rag, anything, just so I wouldn't look. And literally, it found its way into my world. For 20 some years, I didn't have profile picture on social media. I shaved and brushed my teeth in the shower for 20 some years, never looked in windows or reflective things. But then one day, instead of, the thing fell off and I caught myself looking, and it scared me, literally. I had looked in the mirror and caught myself looking at me, and it was like, I thought it was someone else, because I had gotten to be 190 some pounds. I had a 38-inch waist, and that's the day I took that mirror down, and I got one of those ones that you flip that has a different. So I said, if I don't like what I see in that side, I have another one, and I can flip it. And I turned that one that I didn't like into that one, which is still with me today. So I had to find that. So tell us, Karen, what is it? How do you find people? How do you help people rather flip that mirror, or whatever it is? How do you get them to see beyond what they believe to be true, which in most cases isn't true at all?
Exactly. I call that, I love your use of the mirror. I call that the distorted mirror or the cracked mirror, which is the only mirror you've been shown either in childhood or in a bad relationship.
Right.
So that you have this distorted image of yourself. And it's vital to make sure that the friends and people in our lives now don't have cracked mirrors, but that we are reflected back to us a whole person, and to get rid of the toxic people with their distorted mirrors. But to go back to your question, I say, and I'll give you a case study, actually.
Okay.
There was a young chap, about 28, very nice looking young chap with a good job, came to see me because he couldn't keep any of his girlfriends. They wouldn't last. They didn't last more than a few months, and he didn't know why. And also, he was feeling very depressed. And also, even his mates, his male mates, had begun occasionally going out without him. He'd found out, and he didn't know why. And so I had him begin to talk about what his childhood was like, and I began to explain to him that very often in our childhoods, even if we have good childhoods, you know, parents aren't always perfect,
right?
But especially in any kind of abusive or neglectful or emotionally detached childhood, when people say things to us, people who are significant to us, these things stick. But very often they are not speaking fact to us. They are speaking opinion based in the issues they are having.
Right.
And he got a light bulb moment on his face, you see. And I said, what's going on in your head? So he recounted to me that when he was 7 years old, his mom put him to bed, and his bedroom was above the living room. Now, his parents often had arguments, but this particular night, the argument got really out of hand, and it was a real humdinger, screaming and shouting and whatever else.
Yeah.
And he got scared. So this young 7-year-old boy padded downstairs in his pajamas and went and stood outside the closed living room door, listening to this, you see, wide-eyed, you know. And suddenly the door bursts open and out comes his mother. And his mother, he was the first thing his mother saw. And she pointed at him and said, "Oh my God, if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't have to be in this beat marriage. You're the reason I'm so unhappy. It's your fault," you see. And then she stormed off upstairs. Now, kids have what's called concrete thinking, child psychologists tell us. And so they are unable to distinguish between an opinion voiced and a fact. And they personalize everything. So he took on board, he realized at that moment when talking to me, that he was responsible for the emotional and happiness, you know, well-being of his mother. And from then on, everything he did was to make his mother happy. And he began to be hypervigilant around his mom. And as he grew up, that was transposed into his other relationships. And he realized that with his girlfriends, he was always, is everything all right? Is everything okay? Are you okay? You happy? Or,
And then they were like, you're smothering me.
yes, yes. And also with his mates, he became a bit of a, the same
A
thing.
mother hen.
Yeah, yeah.
Let me get that. All that. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And anyway, we worked together for a good year. And a couple of years later, I was in a pub and I was at the bar with some friends and I felt a tap on my shoulder and it was him. And he said, Karen, I want to introduce you to someone. And he took me over to the table and he said, this is my girlfriend of 18 months and we're very, very happy. And he turned to me and he said, I've broken that pattern. I no longer believe that about myself. I know it wasn't the truth about me.
Oh.
So it's possible when we remove from our vision the mirrors we recognize were not a true reflection of ourselves.
Right.
And dare to see ourselves in a kinder light.
Yes.
Then there is healing.
Yes, because exactly. I remember it like it was just 2 seconds ago when that moment clicked inside my spirit and I looked at my scars in that new mirror. But now I could see a faint outline behind every one of them. And the closer I got, the more it turned into a heart. And I heard the voice tell me, Lauren, that really is a heart. It's the heart of the story that rode sidecar with the scar. It's just waiting for you to give it permission to be.
Absolutely.
And that's why our conversations and stories are so, so very important.
Yep.
Oh,
totally.
Karen. Oh, I just love you, and you guys put some hearts on the screen. This was just incredible. I cannot believe this hour is over already.
Me neither.
We have to get you back. And Karen, can you tell people where they can go to continue the dialogue with you? Because I know they don't want this to end so quickly. How do they do that?
Well, I post daily mental health tweets and things on Twitter at Karen Unrue.
At Karen Unrue. I'm
on Instagram at After Alice.
Okay, After Alice.
Yes. I've written a book in which a lot of this is spoken about, called The Blue Jellyfish Syndrome, which you can get on Amazon.
The Blue Jellyfish Syndrome.
The Blue Jellyfish Syndrome, yes. Called How to Beat Stigma and Maintain Hope While Living with a Mental Illness.
Okay. Wow. Well, I'm going to put the Blue Jellyfish Syndrome up on this. Is that right?
Yes, that's it.
Okay. Because I was like, is jellyfish 1 or 2 words? Public school.
It's 1 word.
So it is?
Yes.
You guys didn't see that. Well, you know what? So there it is. There.
That's unless you're covering it. That's unless you're covering a fish in jelly, and then it would be a jellyfish.
Oh, okay. So push those 2 together, and there you have it. Karen Unrue, I just want to say thank you so much for pouring into first myself and all of those that are here and those that are yet to come to watch the replays. You are a true example of how important it is to never give up and to always get up and to do whatever it takes to stay up. And I thank you for it. I honor you for it. Hats off. Kudos to you. Well done. Well done. Well done. And we will be back tomorrow with the king of the Misfit Nation. Jason Cisneros is in the house tomorrow. We are partnering for the very next Power of We Symposium, my nonprofit. Our big thing is going to be in Chicago, April 28th. Go to powerofwesymposium.com to find out more information. But tune in tomorrow to hear how you can be an integral part of our theme this year, keeping our kids safe. That's what we're going to do. Karen, thank you so much. God bless you. And you guys, yes, you're welcome back anytime. Don't wait for me to throw the line out. Throw it in. If you need to come in to keep us in the loop, you got it. Turnstile invitation, all you. Okay?
Okay.
You guys, get out there today. Be the blessing that you would like to receive in the world. And remember, we can do some things all by ourselves, but really not too much. We need each other. It is, in fact, the power of we, never the power of me. And remember, we are not above or below each other. We should be right beside each other. That is what we do. We uplift each other, we point each other, and we are there for each other. Remember that. And I'll see you tomorrow morning, God willing, out front on the front porch for our next episode of Bathrobe Moments. Be good to yourselves and even better to everyone else. Bye, Karen. I love you. Bye-bye, everybody.
Show me your soul. Baby, I'll show you mine. Show me your soul. Honey, it's way past time. How expensive do I have to be? Need I spell it out before you get it, baby? Show me your soul. And honey, I'll show you mine. I'll show you mine. Boy, I'm standing right here holding up a sign, shamelessly displaying my state of mind.